As of the 1st of this month, there's actually a new state law that took effect that gives new leave rights for victims of domestic violence, especially in the financial sphere, which is sort of an area that you don't always tie into domestic violence, but it is often very much tied in. And that's what we want to talk about today. Joining me now to talk more about that, I'm happy to have Liza Andrews from the Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Andrea Barton Reeves, the CEO of Connecticut Paid Leave. Thank you both for taking the time to join me today to talk about an aspect of domestic violence here on Domestic Violence Awareness Month that we have not really talked about, and that we should talk a lot about because maybe a lot of you haven't talked about it. And that, Ms. Andrews, is the aspect of financial control that some people experiencing domestic violence are suffering from. How exactly does that work?
Yeah, at its core, domestic violence is about control and coercion. So sometimes that does appear as physical violence, but the most typical tactics that an abuser might use is isolation. So isolating the victim from family, friends, sources of emotional support, emotional abuse, really breaking down their confidence, and then financial coercion. And so, you know, nationally, about 98% of abusive relationships involve some sort of financial abuse. So that might be withholding money from the victim, maybe not giving them access to shared family money like a savings account. So if a victim is choosing to take steps to protect themselves, you know, like taking a day off of work to go to court, taking a couple of days off of court to move themselves and their children into a new safe home, that becomes much less attainable because they're going to have to lose that time away from work and potentially lose that money. So that's where a program like paid family and medical leave becomes such an important option for survivors.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense. I mean, God forbid you have to call Interval House and try to disappear as much as you can. Well, what happens with your job? These protections have now been expanded. Please talk to me more about exactly what these protections are, what people can expect if they need them.
Sure. So our state has had a Family Violence Leave Act for quite some time. It allows for up to 12 days of leave to do things like find shelter, go to court, get behavioral health supports. But it's hard to do that if you're going to leave and you don't have any job protection and you don't have any money. So if you can come to the Paid Leave Authority, you can apply for wage replacement for those 12 days that you would be away, so that you're not losing money, you're not losing your job, and you have an ability to try to use those days to really help start the process of starting your own life after being a victim of domestic violence.
Would you like to talk more about the expansion too, because it looks like it's being a little more holistic in terms of trying to also give access to help? Either one of you can take this.
Yeah, what passed and what went into effect on October 1st was making domestic violence a protected class here in the state for reasons about employment, you know, credit transactions, housing. So that does give survivors a little more security with their job if they do need to take those days off of work. And the big part here is that paid family leave, which has been in existence, allows them to get their wages replaced if they have to take those days off of work.
Right. And now, I guess the last question I have in terms of not just confidentiality from the employer, but the employers out there and the employees who need to sort of communicate this to them sensitively, what do they need to provide in terms of documentation? Does that vary from case to case?
I'm sorry.
You go.
No,
It can, in fact, vary from case to case. If a person calls and needs paid leave, we really have people who are trained to be sensitive to them and to ask for the least amount of information possible in order for them to access their benefit. And I know employers also have responsibilities when it comes to supporting those that are victims of domestic violence.
Yeah. We just want employers to know that sometimes work is the only safe place for the victim. So try as best they can to be supportive of the victim, listen to the victim, and just continue to give them that safe spot and understand that if their job is jeopardized, that's only going to make the victim more dependent upon their abuser.
Yeah, and again, a lot of these laws were on the books, but they expanded as of October 1st. It's far too complex to be able to sort of list off for you here. That's why we just wanted to make sure you were made aware of it, that you have these rights by Connecticut law. Thank you both for taking the time to join me today just to scratch the surface of this, a very important topic. We do appreciate it both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.